Yo, what's up with y'all? It's JD, travelsthenix, and I'm back with another quick video. And today's video is about confidence. So, where does confidence come from? How do we gain confidence? And when can we be overconfident? So before we get into the video, if you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell if you're into travel, fitness, and just content chopping up game about various subjects like this one. This video is more of chopping up game and just talking about that mental fitness. So confidence, I feel like, is probably step one in terms of mental fitness. You have to be able to gain confidence. You have to be able to know. You have to be able to be putting in work to make improvements to gain confidence. Confidence is pretty much just becoming proficient at any various aspect of life. So it might be in terms of physical fitness, it might be in the academic world, it might be at your job, whatever your job might be. If you're an auto mechanic, if you've been doing it for years and you've been putting in work and learning the tricks of the trade, then obviously you're going to feel more confident in the service that you can provide your customer. Yeah, as far as physical fitness goes, if you've been putting in work on your diet, if you've been putting in work in the gym or out here at the park or at home doing some home workouts and stuff like that, going running, doing different things like that, obviously you're going to feel more proficient at your physical fitness. If you're a student, you've been putting in work, studying, you've been reading, you've been doing all these things to sharpen up your mentals, and obviously you're going to feel more confident when it comes to getting your work done, taking tests, anything like that has to do with the subject matter that you're going to school for. So pretty much confidence is fairly simple when you look at it in those terms, because if you're just going off of your own self and the work that you're putting in, the more work that you put in and the more proficient that you become at something, you're going to get more confident. Of course, I do know that there's always outside influences, but if you keep those outside influences to the minimum, then nobody's going to be able to hinder how confident that you become in any aspect of life. Any area of your life, nobody else is going to be able to hinder how confident you become in that area of life. Of course, I know that people always try to put in their 2 cents. A lot of times people bring a lot of negativity in our life, but to be honest with you, that's also on us to get those people out of our life as soon as possible. We don't need negative people in our life. We don't need people who are second guessing what we're doing. We don't need people who are pretty much just going to be haters in terms of our life. I mean, I know that comes with the territory, but you either block them out or you just let them go. So that's another aspect of confidence. And how do you gain confidence? Like I said, just put the work in. For me, when it came down to physical fitness and just being confident in the way that I look, I think what it all started with was me getting my diet on point and getting my diet together and figuring out which diet actually worked for me, because everybody's body is different. So everybody needs to have different types of nutrition. For me personally, having a more plant-based diet works for me. You know what I mean? Of course, I can have a little bit of meat, a little bit of animal protein here and there, but plant-based works for me. And as far as the physical activity, calisthenics is where it's at for me. I mean, I know that everybody has their own niche. Everybody has something that they feel comfortable doing. Some people just like playing ball. Some people just like going running. Some people like hitting the weights. That's all good. But as long as you're putting in the work in all these different areas, and as long as you're trying to learn new things when it comes to physical fitness, then you're going to gain more confidence in your physical fitness. And as far as your mentals go, I think the easiest way to gain mental confidence is by reading. Pick up a book. You should always have at least 3 or 4 different books at your house that you haven't even cracked open yet, because you got to be working on a couple books, and then you have to have a couple books on deck just for when you're finished up with those books. And for me personally, the more books I read, the more knowledge I acquire, the more confident I just feel in everyday life. Because, you know, when you have a certain amount of knowledge that you've gained from reading different books, you can share that knowledge with other people, and you feel more confident about what you bring to the table in terms of a conversation. Or maybe people might be talking about a certain subject and you might have just read a book about that certain subject. Or maybe people might be talking about anything and you just so happen to have read a book about it, and that just brings more confidence to the table for you as a person. And that just builds up more confidence for yourself in terms of your mental strength, because you've been putting in the work reading, you've been putting in the work physically, and all that comes together and builds a pretty confident person in my estimation. And probably on the next level, you know what I mean, that's when you get into like the spirituality part of it. But as far as spirituality goes, I feel like that's a journey that we're all on, you know, throughout our whole life. But it starts with the physical, then it goes to the mental, and then it goes to the spiritual. That's just the way I look at it. You know what I mean? Because all three of them is a lifelong process. All three of them are a lifelong journey. Because no matter what, we always have to maintain our body. No matter what, we should always be trying to learn, and we should be trying to grow. And no matter what, we should all be trying to find some way that we can connect to God or the universe or whatever you want to call it, you know what I mean? And figure out where we belong, and, you know, try to figure out that spiritual aspect of ourselves as well. So that's my take on confidence. And as far as being overconfident, I know a lot of times people might look at somebody and say, man, that person's super confident, and, you know, they're not even really all that. I think a lot of that is just bluster, and a lot of that is just BS, you know what I mean? Because for me personally, I don't think that's real confidence. That's just fake confidence, and I think that's just overconfidence. That's a person thinking that they're better than what they really are just off GP. And we never want to get to that point. We should always try to stay as humble as possible. Of course, you should have confidence, and having a part of having confidence is thinking highly of yourself, but you should also stay humble and try to be as realistic as possible. And one analogy that I would say in this is that, well, actually I got a couple analogies I'm thinking of off the top of my head in terms of people being overconfident. It's like a lot of times I'll be hanging out with some fellas, and the dudes who are always the most harsh critics on women in terms of like the way that a woman's body looks or just the way that a woman's physical appearance looks, it's always the dudes who's out of shape. You know what I mean? It's like, how are you going to be judgmental of somebody's body? How are you going to be judgmental of somebody's body image or somebody's looks when you're not even on point yourself? You know what I mean? And another example I can think of is just students wise, and this is just something that I kind of got into a conversation with my mother about, and she's actually a college professor, and she was just telling me about how a lot of these students, they don't put the work in terms of their assignments, they don't put the work in terms of their craft, which is being a student, but then they want the reward, they want the good grade, they want the pat on the back. But you're not going to get the pat on the back, you're not going to get the good grade unless you actually put the work in. You know what I mean? So that's overconfidence as well. And this can translate to every single aspect in life. I played basketball with people who thought they were better than what they really were. You know what I mean? I've worked with people who think they're better at their job than what they really are. But that just translates, and that goes into all areas of life. But at the end of the day, confidence is a pretty simple subject. It's not easy, and it's not easy to gain confidence, and it doesn't happen overnight. Confidence is something that you develop over time. Confidence is something that you develop from hard work. So it's obviously not easy to develop confidence. It wasn't easy for me to develop confidence working out, doing calisthenics when I first started out, because I didn't really know what I was doing. I wasn't proficient at certain things. I couldn't even do a muscle up, couldn't do a handstand. All these different types of movements that I wanted to be able to do, I couldn't do, and I saw other people doing. But what I did is I just kept at it. And then once I started developing skills in this area, and once I started getting a little bit better, a little bit more proficient, my confidence started to rise. It started to get higher and higher and higher, and to the point where now I can do a lot of the things that I set out to do in terms of my initial goals of doing calisthenics. And I'm very confident in it. And to be honest with you, I'm not overconfident in it, because I still know that there's so much more stuff for me to learn in terms of calisthenics. There's so much more stuff, so many more skills that I can gain from doing calisthenics, that I'm humble enough to know that I'm not at the top level. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to get to that top level, but it's just a journey that I'm on in terms of my calisthenics journey. And that's the same thing in terms of just acquiring knowledge. I read a lot, and I know I don't know everything, and I still have so much more to learn. But you know, the more and more I read, the more and more I do research on different subjects, the more confidence I can gain by putting in that work. And when I have conversations with people, I feel more confident to put my 2 cents in about maybe a subject about this or a subject about that. And it can go into all three phases of life. like I always tell people, you know what I mean, it's all about mind, body, and soul, and we are trying to grow in all those aspects of life. But anyways, y'all, holler at me in the comment section about this video. Let me know what you guys think about confidence. What are some of your tactics to gaining confidence? Where you think confidence stems from? Do you think it's an external thing, or do you think it's an internal thing? For me personally, I think it's more of an internal thing. I do think there's an external element to confidence, but I do think that confidence actually just comes from within, and it comes from us putting the work in to get proficient at whatever area of life that we're looking to gain confidence in. And I don't really believe in there's such thing as just overall confidence, because there's no such thing as somebody who's confident at everything. Nobody's confident at everything, because nobody's a master at everything, and nobody's even proficient at everything. But anyways, y'all, that's all I gotta say for this video. I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.